what was notable coming into the year was just how uncertain hedge fund managers are. Hedge fund managers were, given the significant policy uncertainty. And so if you're running money at a hedge fund, you almost think about making a couple of different bets. There's sort of a directional bet, like, do you think stocks are going to go up or go down? And then in many ways, there's a confidence of that bet, which can vary through time. There's certain times when you're very confident that there's a clear direction in terms of the dynamics occurring. And then there's other times where you're not very confident. I think one of the most notable things we saw from hedge fund managers entering the year was essentially the lowest conviction that they've had in almost a decade, really since just coming out of the financial crisis. And so that was a very important element, which highlighted, like, it was not time to go all in on a particular theory of how this was to play out. I think the thing that's interesting is we've seen those hedge fund managers really rotate hard to a more, let's say, growth, a defensive stance in recent weeks as the policy mix has become more apparent. I think in many ways, those managers, they were part of their selling or risk reducing positions were part of that sort of first leg down that we saw before the Liberation Day announcement.
And to clarify, Bob, you're referencing kind of in February, like the unwind of the rotation out of momentum. And
Exactly. That was a big, that was, I'd say, symptomatic of overall hedge fund manager positions. It was driven by them, although that's a small portion of the overall industry because they trade $5 trillion of assets, so they're kind of everywhere. And so, the weakness that we saw in the equity, in a broad set of equity markets, and some strength that we saw in bonds were largely reflective of those shifts. I think that's interesting. In some ways, to be frank, hedge funds got a bit lucky in terms of the Liberation Day, if you could sort of call it luck, in the sense of they were more defensively positioned for that announcement, which was more extreme than I think pretty much any person, other than maybe someone who was in the room there, had thought it was going to be. And those managers were not yet seeing, we're still seeing them play defense in this moment, rather than looking for, looking to pick up risk and take more opportunities.